Hello and welcome to Arnie's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Haunted Lighthouse of St. Catherine's. Holly Arnold stood at the bow of the ferry, her hazel eyes fixed on the rugged silhouette of the Isle of Wight as it emerged from the mist. The wind, sharp with salt and secrets, tugged at her auburn hair, whipping it across her face. Beneath her, the sea roiled, a restless beast clawing at the hull, while above, the sky hung heavy and grey, pregnant with the threat of rain. In the distance, perched atop a jagged cliff like a weary guardian, stood St. Catherine's Lighthouse. Its weathered facade, once a proud white, now peeled and faded into a sickly pallor, loomed against the horizon. A shiver raced down Holly's spine, part anticipation, part dread. She had come to unravel the truth behind the legends that clung to this place like damp fog. But as the island drew nearer, an unshakable sensation gripped her. The lighthouse was watching, its dark, hollow windows staring back. Arrival and ominous beginnings. The ferry docked with a groan, and Holly disembarked, her boots thudding against the wet gangplank. A light drizzle kissed her skin as she hefted her backpack and hurried toward the small terminal. In sight, the air smelled of old wood and stale coffee. At the information desk sat an elderly man, his face carved with lines deep as the island's cliffs, his voice thick with a local burr. "Welcome to the Isle of Wight, miss. What brings you here?" "I'm here to study St. Catherine's Lighthouse," Holly replied. "I'm a historian, researching its history and the stories about it." The man's eyes narrowed. The lighthouse. Be careful up there. It's not a place for the faint-hearted. Strange things happen, especially after dark." Holly offered a polite smile. "I'm sure it's just tales and superstition. That's what I'm here to investigate." "Well, good luck then. If you need anything, ask for old Tom at the pub in Niton. He knows more about that place than most." Thanking him, Holly stepped back into the drizzle. The drive to the lighthouse wound through Niton, a quaint village of stone cottages dwarfed by the wild landscape beyond. The cliffs rose sharply on one side, the sea gnashing at their base, while gnarled trees bent by years of wind clawed at the sky. Then there it was St. Catherine's Lighthouse, solitary and silent, its tower thrusting upward from the promontory like a bony finger pointing to the heavens. The Historical Society had granted her permission to stay in the old keeper's quarters, now a sparsely furnished relic maintained for researchers like her. Holly unlocked the heavy door, its hinges screeching in protest, and stepped inside. A musty odor greeted her, the scent of time and neglect. Dust motes danced in the dim light filtering through cracked windows. The ground floor held a small kitchen, a living area with a sagging sofa, and a narrow hallway leading to the spiral staircase. She dropped her bags and began her ascent to the lantern room. The stairs creaked beneath her weight, each step a hollow echo in the stillness. At the top, the massive glass lens sat dormant, its once potent beam extinguished when the lighthouse was decommissioned decades ago, replaced by modern navigation systems. Holly pressed her hands against the cold glass, gazing out at the sea. Far below, jagged rocks pierced the waves' treacherous teeth that had claimed countless lives. She wondered if one of those wrecks held the key to the haunting she'd come to explore. The first night. Evening descended swiftly, the horizon swallowed by a shroud of black. Holly set up her equipment with methodical precision, audio recorders whirring softly, cameras trained on shadowy corners, an EMF meter blinking silently on the table. She brought historical documents, 2 yellowed papers, and faded photographs she intended to study. Settling onto the sofa with a cup of tea, she began scribbling notes, the scratch of her pen the only sound save for the wind's mournful howl outside. Then a creak. Sharp and deliberate, it came from the staircase. Holly froze, her pulse quickening. Just the wind, she told herself, or the old building settling. She rose, flashlight in hand, and crept toward the stairs. The beam sliced through the gloom, revealing nothing but one step spiraling into darkness. She waited, listening. Silence pressed in, thick and heavy. Shaking her head, she returned to her work, but the unease lingered, a cold weight in her chest. Later, as she drifted into a fitful sleep, a new sound jolted her awake. A whisper, or was it a cry? Faint and fleeting. She sat up, part hammering, and grabbed her recorder. Playback yielded only static, punctuated by a barely audible murmur, too indistinct to decipher. Imagination, she muttered, digging into the past. The next morning, Holly drove to Knitton's small library, a squat building nestled between the pub and a post office. Rain pattered against the windows as she pored over brittle newspapers and dusty logbooks. The shipwreck of the Sea Maiden in 1892 dominated the records. A merchant vessel dashed against the rocks during a ferocious storm, its crew of 30 lost to the depths. Reports conflicted. Some blamed the keeper, Samuel Grayson, for failing to maintain the light, while others insisted the storm's fury had overwhelmed even the stoutest efforts. The official inquiry had exonerated Grayson, but whispers of negligence or worse persisted. At the pub that evening, Holly sought old Tom. She found him by the fire, his gnarled hands wrapped around a pint, his eyes glinting with the flicker of the flames. "You're the last staying at the Lighthouse," he said. "Brave of you. I've heard it's haunted," Holly replied. "What do you know?" Tom took a slow sip. "It's been haunted since I was a boy. Ghosts of the Sea Maiden S crew, they say, went down in 92. Terrible storm. Light wasn't shining that night. Some reckon Grayson was drunk. Others say he lost his wits. Ship sank, with all hands gone." Holly pressed. "Hard to tell. Inquiry said no, but folks never forgot. He stayed on at the Lighthouse. A broken man died there too." Tom leaned closer, his voice dropping. "I've seen things up there, lights in the dark, voices on the wind, shadows walking the cliffs, ghost or madness. I wouldn't sleep there." His words clung to Holly as she returned to the Lighthouse. She felt the weight of history now, a tangible presence in the air. Whispers in the dark. That night the disturbances grew bolder. Holly awoke to footsteps thudding above her, heavy and purposeful, echoing from the lantern room. She grabbed her flashlight and climbed the stairs, the cold metal railing biting into her palm. The lantern room was empty, the lens still and silent, yet the air thrummed with an unseen energy. Her EMF meter spiked, its needle dancing wildly, then fell still. A shadow flickered at the edge of her vision, tall, indistinct, but when she turned, it vanished. Back in the keeper's quarters, she reviewed her footage. The camera had captured nothing but static. Yet the audio revealed a chilling fragment, a man's voice, low in anguish, muttering, I tried. Holly's breath caught. Grayson? Or her mind conjuring phantoms from fatigue? The following day she scoured the Lighthouse for clues. In a dusty trunk beneath the stairs she found a leather-bound journal, its pages brittle with age. Grayson's handwriting sprawled across them, frantic and uneven. He wrote of the storm, Sea Maiden S desperate signals, his futile attempts to light the lamp as the mechanism jammed. The wind screamed their deaths. I see them now every night, wet and pale, staring. They blame me. The final entry was a single line. The light must shine again. Holly's heart ached. Grayson hadn't been negligent. He'd been helpless, trapped by fate and machinery. Yet his guilt had bound him here, a prisoner of his own remorse. Visions and torment. The dreams began that night, vivid, suffocating. Holly stood in Grayson's boots, the storm raging around her, rain lashing her face as she wrestled with the lantern's gears. Lightning illuminated the Sea Maiden its hull splintering against the rocks, screams swallowed by the gale. She woke gasping, the taste of salt on her lips. The hauntings escalated. Doors slammed without cause. Cold hands brushed her neck, fleeting but real. One night she glimpsed a figure at the lantern room's edge, a man in a tattered oilskin, his face gaunt, eyes hollow. He vanished as she approached, leaving only a whisper, light it. Her cameras caught orbs of light, her recorders captured sobs and pleas, fragments of a tragedy replayed endlessly. Holly understood now. Grayson's spirit lingered, tethered to his failure, and the sailors with him, lost in the dark. The Lighthouse's light extinguished since that night held the key. She inspected the lantern mechanism, rusted but intact, its wiring frayed but salvageable. Could she restore it? Would it free them? The storm and the light. On her fifth night, a storm descended, mirroring the one from Grayson's journal, wind howling, waves crashing, power flickering out. Holly's phone died, her isolation complete. The Lighthouse trembled as if alive. Footsteps multiplied, shadows swarmed, and a chorus of voices rose angry, pleading, desperate. She resolved to act. Armed with Grayson's journal and a toolbox, she climbed to the lantern room, the storm's fury shaking the tower. Ghostly hands clawed at her, icy fingers snagging her coat, but she pressed on. The mechanism resisted, seized by rust and time. She pried at it, sweat mingling with rain, her flashlight beam trembling. A figure materialized Grayson, his spectral form gaunt and dripping. "I tried," he rasped. "I tell them I tried, I know." "You did your best. Let me finish it." He faded, and with a final wrench, she connected the power, flipped the switch, and light blazed forth, a piercing beam slicing through the tempest. The storm faltered, the voices hushed. Below, translucent figures emerged as sailors, their faces softening as the light swept over them. One by one, they dissolved, carried away by the beam. Grayson lingered last, a faint nod of gratitude before he too vanished. Dawn and departure. The storm broke at dawn, leaving a sky of fragile blue. Holly stood in the lantern room, exhaustion pulling at her limbs, the light still turning, its purpose fulfilled. She felt lighter too, not just from the spirit's release, but from her own. Years ago, she'd lost her brother in a car accident, blaming herself for not driving that night. Now, helping Grayson, she'd begun to forgive herself. She packed her gear, leaving the lighthouse silent but at peace. Driving away, she glanced back, the tower quiet monument against the cliffs. Holly wouldn't write her book, not yet. Some stories, she decided, were better left to whisper on the wind, a quiet requiem for the lost and the redeemed. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.